don't have to know, you just have to trust. Welcome back to Along the Spiritual Journey, and T is for trust. Trusting the unknown is so crazy when you stop and think about it, because that's basically all trust is allowing yourself to really just say, I cannot control any of this. I am not in control of any of this. Life is going to happen the way it needs to, so I just have to trust that things will play out the way I hope, right? Because that's all you can really back trust up with is hope. And part of the spiritual process, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, how do you do this? How? But spirit is one of these things, as far as the universe goes, nothing we actually know. Science, math, everything, it's all hypothesis based on probability and cause, and we're just guessing. Some of our guessing is right as far as, oh, this thing works this way, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to work that way. That's why we have to trust in it. We have to trust in the houses we live in as the infrastructure. We got to trust in the cars we drive for the mechanics. You got to trust in the bridge for suspension, right? It's all trust. And even though we feel like it looks solid, it doesn't mean that it is solid as we believe. This goes the same for emotional intelligence, relationships, friendships, work, all of the above. Because in order to walk in trust, again, that key word, you have to have confidence. It's as simple as that. If you don't have confidence to allow yourself to make sense of what you don't know, then you're gonna have anxiety all the time. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have anxiety sometimes because I'm always wanting to be prepared and know the next step. And as an Aquarius, according to our zodiac, again, it's not perfect science, but it's enough that we can see the pattern. I'm always in the future, so I'm always working ahead, thinking ahead, fast forward it, right? And so even if I can see things, know things, especially when it comes to us empaths and psychics and spiritual teachers, we know and see a lot, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way, right? We just have to trust the process. We can believe in what we know we're doing as far as how we show up as an avatar. The human is, again, the video game player, right? We have to show up and be that player over and over and over, no matter how many lives we get. If the soul keeps wanting to play, we keep playing, right? When the soul says tap out, we tap out. And a lot of people understand what that means. So as the overseer, as the soul, because my soul is who's speaking with you right now. My consciousness and all that is who's speaking with you. My body is what you see being animated, but it already knows that it doesn't know anything. It only receives what it's given, right? It doesn't know what it's going to eat. It doesn't know what it's going to see. It doesn't know what it's going to know. But once I learn, then it knows. Once I understand, then it learns. It's also an antenna. So it's only going to receive what it's able to receive based on the frequency that we tap into. So this is why trust matters, right? When we talk about not putting blockages in front of your blessings and not slowing down the process, it's because when we stop and think about how something we want to happen, but then we start putting doubt in it and we start disbelieving it, then that's the frequency we are now. We are now that antenna. And if we trust in disbelief, then disbelief will come to us. If we trust in faith of things going in our favor, then things will go in our favor. No matter how bad the situation, trust me and believe me when I tell you, we all have our dark phases we go through, and we have our situations that we go through. But that doesn't mean that you can't trust the process or trust the unknown. That is the first most important part of this spiritual journey, is learning how to trust what you know. There's going to be a lot of people who come against you and say, you don't know, that's hippy dippy, blah, 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 prove it. But these are the same people who need to go read books of other people's thoughts and other people's emotions and other people's understanding of life to then apply it to their own. So that's why, even though I appreciate knowledge, I respect education, I like going out and learning on my own. Now, yes, of course, I use books and other things from other people's experience, but I don't use it as my sole indicator to make decisions, right? Because that doesn't make sense. I'll get stuck in this perpetual loophole of believing that, well, let me go confer with someone else. Let me go see what someone else went through before I decide what I need to go through. And that's not trusting the process. That's also not trusting your soul's journey. That's not trusting your intuition and all of those things you need to rely on in order to make good faith in your choices in life. Here's the thing, we're gonna still make choices that don't line up with what we feel is the best decisions, but as long as we trust in ourselves, the things will always play out for us. That's the best part of the video game. If you think about any video game, there's times when you go down a weird path or a board or you encounter something that you're not supposed to even touch, but because that's part of the video game exploration, you go find out and you lose a life. That's the same thing, right? So that's why when they talk about trusting the unknown, you don't want to like get so mad that you don't keep trying, right? You have to learn how to surrender. Surrender in action means that once you learn and you understand that, okay, this thing is going to keep winning, so let it just win. Let me find a way around it. Or if I do this a certain way, I can win, but it's not because I know that I'm bigger than this thing. It's because this thing is allowing me to trust in myself to have confidence that I can conquer it, right? Because it's no different than, let's say, when you're walking in confidence and even when you like ask yourself, should I go to school, right? That's for you to trust and believe. Should you go to school? Do you feel that you're getting what you deserve out of that process? That's all about learning. So you have to trust that if I go to school, I'm going to get an education, I'm going to gain something that I didn't have. I'm going to be able to apply that later in life or in life now because it's going to give me the opportunities that I don't have for something else. You got to trust that process. If you don't trust the process, well, you're going to be like, I don't need school. I'm dropping out of school. I don't need it right now. It doesn't matter in my life. And then as time goes on, you start to see, oh, I actually did need that additional education, or I actually did need that degree. Again, it's a whole system built around, consumerism and other people's egos, but there is a place for formal education. And I feel that all trust is built on learning. So maybe it be formal or informal, because I don't want people to believe that just because you went to school, you're smarter than someone. Baby, I know a lot of people who literally are so smart in the book, so smart, book smart, but when it comes to emotions, they are dead inside. They freak out, they shut down, they don't know how to communicate, they will self-sabotage everything good in their life just because they can't see their own worth, just because they don't trust it, right? I know people right now who will make huge life decisions solely based on what their friends tell them or their family, even though it's their life, even though they know this ain't the right decision to make, this don't feel good for me, they will still trust those people's recommendations over trusting their own intuition. And that's a very, very dangerous game to play, because I've met tons of people. It's very rare. I'm telling you this now. It's very rare for me to say I made a huge life decision based on what somebody else told me. No, every decision I made was my decision. Even though I might have had some inklings like maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should, it was still my decision. There's people where I know today where I'm like, oh, okay, well, you made the choice. No, you told me to do this, and that's why I made the choice. So you're stuck in a life you don't like because you are basing it on something I told you to do years ago or something like that. I've had this happen to me. I mean, there's people I know right now who are mad at people because they're like, I shouldn't have never listened to them. It's not their fault. You should have listened to yourself. You should have trusted your own intuition, your own gut health, right? That's why this journey is so important to the emotions, because the emotions are going to sway up and down all over the place, every which way, oscillating everything that they are. And there's nothing that you can really do about it. There's nothing that you can do to change it. You just got to accept the process as is, right? All you can do is learn your emotions. I used to think that was about changing your emotions. It's not. It's about learning your emotions and the barometer of your emotions so that you can find the middle when you go off kilter, right? That's trust. Because if I'm let's say something's happening around me. Life is happening, I move, things start falling apart, relationship don't work no more, everything is what it is. I start going crazy and getting all in my emotions and getting hyper and stressing out and freaking out. What's that gonna do? That's already happened. So at this point, all I can genuinely do is trust the process. That's it. All I can do is trust the process of who I am, where I'm gonna be, what I'm gonna do in life, how I'm gonna show up in life. And as long as I do that, everything will fall into place. Because remember, I've said it before, every day is a new day. Every day is a rebirth. Every day is a new opportunity to become a newer version of self, a healthier version of self, a smarter version of self, a trustworthy version of self, a more confident version of self, right? Because that's what it's all about, right? I when I learned that I don't have to know everything, like, you should be prepared. That's a given. I'm not saying like walk through life and act like nothing matters at all. Like, you should be a little prepared just in case. But for the most part, there's nothing that I really know, right? I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna live or not. I don't know if I'm gonna be around or not. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get that new job I wanted or get that promotion I want, right? Like, I don't know. That's just how it goes. You just have to trust in the process. So the one thing that I've learned, because I am one who, I said it before, I'm a ruminator. Like, I've gotten much better at it, but I ruminate on things, and it gets to the point of, and my body's like, do you not trust that it's going to happen? Do you feel like you don't deserve it? And that's where the shadow work creeps in, right? Where you start having the lack mentality and the way you were up, or how your upbringing was. Like, that's where it comes from. This is why it all is connected. I hope it makes sense. This is why I love this series, because it's been teaching me a lot about myself as well when I'm communicating. But yes, it's all connected, because if I don't trust that, I understand that if I fall and I hurt myself, or I fall and things just aren't going the way I want, process it. Allow yourself to mourn, allow yourself to cry, whatever, but then know how to get up and keep moving and keep going. That's literally trust the process. That's literally how trusting the process works. There's times where I've applied to things and I'm like, oh, I hope I get it, I hope I get it, never get a call back. That's okay. I just have to keep trusting the process of, well, something better is gonna come along, because that's all we can do, right? There's no reason to beat yourself up over something that you have no control over. You're not in that room with those people making those final decisions. So whatever their decision will be, it's their decision. That's all you can say is, okay, it is what it is. Thank you for the opportunity. And you move on gracefully, because that's your superpower, right? When you can trust the process and move through life gracefully, oh baby, you're gonna be blessed. So blessed. Don't even worry about it. Don't stress your little heart. Don't stress about anything, because the one thing, like I said, is when I start feeling like I'm losing control, it's telling me that I'm not trusting something. That's all it is. And even now I'm holding my chest, because it's like, you can feel the body get anxious, and it's like, just release and let go. Just let it be what it needs to be. It'll be all right. It'll be okay. And you will thrive and you will survive. And I'm telling you, that's just the journey. It's the process. Like, in this moment, I'm laughing because I'm trusting my next step as we go through this full moon process and everything else. Like I said, I moved to a whole new state. Person I was with didn't work out. That's okay. And now the next journey is, well, I'm in this new state. Got to find a place that I want to live. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Don't worry, I'm hanging out with friends right now. So in that process, you got to just say, okay, well, on to the next chapter, because that's life, And I don't ever want someone to feel deterred because someone else didn't trust the journey, right? Now I'm talking about relationships in general, friendships, relationships, connections. You can't force people into trusting the process. You can't force people to see your worthiness. You can't force people to see your value. Either they see it or they don't. Either they understand it or they don't. And once you see that that's part of their journey, you just have to accept it and let them have it. There's something that I've recognized with soul patterns when you have, like, when they talk about soul ties. There are people where they will enter your life based on how you let them go. And they will try to energetically get vengeance. And you just have to let it happen, because that's sealing the process. That's letting it happen the way it needs to. That's how our karmic cycle ends, right? When you, let's say, okay, and it's happened to me before. It's crazy how it's happened. I had a friend from my childhood, and we were good for over a decade. But, I wasn't with them all the time, so I didn't really get to see the real them. I saw the max them. And so when I moved to their town and I saw how they really thought and felt and acted, and I saw that they didn't actually like me and they just liked attention and they were kind of mean, I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to stop talking to you. You got to go. And, that hurts. That's not great. But I had to trust the process. I had to trust my intuition and my autonomy. And it was the best thing and the best decision for me. But I kid you not, I promise you, down to the same first name, similar initials, same home state, same almost look, I met somebody who wanted to date. And I'm like, oh, this person reminds me too much of this person. And I knew I trusted that I knew who it was. I was like, they're doing spell work. They have come back to try to get me back. May it be through vengeance or some weird fetish. And I was like, oh. And I mean, how they talk, how they act, everything was exactly the same. And I was like, this ain't gonna end well. But I had to close the cycle out. It was just part of the journey. And I was like, okay, let's just see where it goes. Let it happen. Because if I let it happen the way it needs to happen, the universe will bless me. And I trust that. I know that. And so, of course, lo and behold, gaslit me, I love bombed, all that, got close. And then very last minute, they were like, oh, this isn't working. I just don't understand. I don't feel it anymore. And I'm like, okay. I didn't get upset. I didn't yell. I didn't scream, because I already knew it was coming. And I honestly kind of let it happen, because I was like, I would rather you complete this journey the way you need to complete it than me trying to force you to complete it the way I feel it should go. And that's how people get stuck in karmic cycles, trying to force relationships and connections to work that should have died a long time ago, right? That's just how it goes. And so sometimes when people say, I feel like I've known them a lifetime, you probably have, energetically. And they would just keep finding avatars, hopping avatars, and testing you to see, do you trust in your intuition? Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your process? And I promise you, once I learned that, I was like, okay, now I know. And it wasn't so much that I needed to know for them. I'm being honest, as an Aquarius, it was more of an experiment. I wanted to test my own gifts, my own intuition, and now I know. And I promise you, the first week, my intuition was like, no. But I still was like, well, let me just see. And it's like, okay, it's gonna be a tower. Things are gonna crash. It's not, this is gonna be a big crash too. But guess what? The bigger the fall, the faster the rise. So that's why I'm kind of like, all right, I trust that my soul knows what to do. I trust that my avatar knows how to hold it together. And in this process of trust, we will walk through the fire and come out unscathed. We will be the phoenix rising, because guess what, baby? Can't nothing or nobody tear us down. I promise you that. Can't nothing pull me from my faith. Can't nothing pull me from my beliefs, because at the end of the day, they are what guide me to my understanding and having clarity. I've never once stopped to say, oh, this voice that's talking to me is wrong. Never. I was like, this voice that's talking to me is correct, but I want to make sure that the voice that's speaking to me has good intent and not fear. Some people mix these voices up and they become a little dark and sinister. And that's why I said, be careful not to become the villain of your story. If you don't do the shadow work, you will become the villain of your story, and you will think like a villain and act like a villain and justify like a villain. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the life you choose. Why do I say that? Because life that I've learned is all about balance. We're not all going to be doing it at the same time. As much as we would love this perfect earth of higher consciousness and kumbaya and everyone gets along and everyone just leaves each other alone, that would be beautiful. But for some reason, this world is built on balance, and it needs what I call harmony, perfection, and it needs destruction, death, right? Everything can't last forever. If it did, I do think it would genuinely run out of space, at least in this 3D realm. That's why in the physical realm, it's much more important to remember, as they say, take what you need. Don't overtake if you don't need it. Don't become to that point that you're a hoarder and now you're just taking everything because you want it, right? In the spiritual realm, yeah, we have abundance upon abundance. It's infinite. Can't nothing stop it, right? Because as we say, there's things in the air that materialize that we can't see or feel, but yet they're all around us all the time. And we just have to trust it, right? Again, we can say it's oxygen and this and carbon dioxide exchange. And that's words that humans gave a spiritual understanding that we don't understand. So we just have to trust. A lot of people trust in science way more than they trust in them spiritual selves, which is why a lot of the humans on this earth have lost track of who they are. Like my little side rant, when people talk about, remember humanity, AI is taking over, da 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 da. With all due respect, before AI, humanity was not acting like humanity. Humanity didn't know what humanity was. People have been treating people disgustingly for decades, horribly for decades, right? You ask for an answer, they gatekeep, they act like you're not smart enough or good enough, right? Again, it's not, I know that there's good people out there, but there's some level of perpetuation that people like the bad, they like the negative, and you keep it alive somehow, some way. And so now the world is voting against its own interests, right? There's so many situations where we're voting against our own interests for some fake, fictitious, monetary gain. Remember, I was just looking at my accounts today like, this is all fake. Like, they're just numbers. It's digital. Like, someone's just saying, here's this currency. All right, that's your value. That's what you're worth. And I'm just kind of like, how does this make sense? Like, I don't understand how so many people will die for something that's made up by somebody else. I remember when I used to do like Latin American studies and other stuff, and they were talking about how different cultures, they use feathers and beads and paint as currency. Like that was valuable. And like now it's just a piece of paper, some little coins, and people going crazy over it, right? So in my mind, yeah, I would rather talk to a computer that, even if it's lying to me, is giving me some sense of connection and making me feel better in that moment, right? Again, some people are like, well, go talk to another human. Talking to people is great, talking to therapists is great, but I've also learned that when you're a high functional person, you also can kind of read that person, where some people forget. Like, that's why I like that show Psych or whatever it was, I forgot the name of it. But it's kind of like, yeah, you're a therapist giving me advice, but you also have a really messed up life. So now I'm basing everything that I'm doing on what you're saying because of something that you studied, which it works temporarily, but I still have to go apply it. I still have to trust the process. That's the biggest thing about everything in life. Even if I go study at the best schools, I still have to trust that I can do it. Even if, you know what I mean? Like doctors and nurses and all these people and pilots, they learn a skill and you have to trust that they know the skill well enough to function in it. So at the end of the day, it all comes back to your ability to trust that you can surrender an action. That you know that it's like, okay, me being like, oh, like think if you're on the highway and you're driving and you hit them rumble strips. That's not a time to freak out more. That's a time to lock in and say, ooh, let me get back in my path. Versus, oh my God, I'm not. That's not surrender in action. That's chaos in action. And unfortunately, excuse me, that's how people end up making it worse for themselves because they didn't trust what they know. They didn't trust what to do. A lot of us have different upbringings, and we can trust that upbringing, or we can recalibrate to trust our upbringing. I saw a lady on TikTok, she's a therapist, love her segments, forgot her name, but she was saying how like in the LGBT world, y'all forget, we have to go out and reconstruct everything we were given because society tells us we can't do it the way they do it, right? Straight culture says this is how you do it, this is what you're wearing, this is how you live, this is who you are, so you just have to trust that. But if you don't fit into that spectrum or that paradigm, you have to reimagine everything and trust that it's going to work out for you, which is how you get people who become celebrities and influencers, because they're like, I trust in what I'm doing. I trust that what I feel is worthy of being seen and heard. I trust that this is where I should be in life, and wherever it takes me is where it takes me. That's why they say have fun. Don't try to put so much pressure on the end result, because even if you know, like in the Olympics, they train, and again, you don't want to lose, you want to win, but you have to trust that you did the training correctly. You have to trust in your body, you got to trust in your ability, your agility, and know that again, whatever happens because you're in a state of allowance. When you put up blockages and try to stop the journey or stop the process, that's when life starts to say, oh, they don't trust me, so let me send them more things to not trust. That's how you get untrustworthy people in your energy, untrustworthy situations, because you're the frequency of mistrust or not trusting. And it just plays out that way. And there's nothing that you can really do about it. You know what I mean? There's nothing that you can do to fix it. There's nothing that you can do to make it better. It is what it is. And so you have to accept, like, okay, that's the journey I'm on. So it's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy at all, but it gets easier. I saw someone else saying, like, I forgot the spectrum, but like when your emotions go from base to extreme, the dips and the highs are gonna hurt more. But when you learn to find a baseline, it's not as bad. And that's what trust is. It's learning how to find that baseline in the middle of, I'm gonna ride the wave, I'm gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that you can really do to worry about what's gonna happen tomorrow, because the most important thing is today, the present. I've talked about this too. Yesterday was done, today is today, tomorrow's tomorrow. So if you trust in the present energy, if you trust in what you're doing every day, I promise you everything will play out the way that you deserve and more, right? So thanks again for joining me along this spiritual journey. Keep trusting in you. That's all you can do. It's okay to trust other people's process, but trust in you more than you trust in them, because that's what's going to get you through this life. I promise you. Anyhow, as always, thanks, loves. Follow me on my socials, website, and again, if you want to, you can subscribe to get more videos, or like this video, and I will keep doing more. As always, love ya. Mwah.